Welcome everyone. Today we have a new guide for our Marksman build. Now looking behind me, let's go through with some replays and then we're going to go through the Marksman build changes and also what's available today in our builds guide. Oh boy, I wrote a lot. So in terms of our Marksman guide, you can see that again, just to demonstrate, it doesn't have any problems over 1200, 300 corruption. It doesn't have any problems with over 1000 corruption, of course. But the biggest question I often had from my viewers is, how do I get to your friend's state? Because they can see in the builder's guide, my friend is mauling through the map within 30 seconds, killing everything with legendary 3, legendary 4 potential items. And a lot of viewers were asking, hey, how do I get to the state? I don't have a 3 LP weapon. I only have a 1 or 2 LP weapon. I don't have the best gears or the items that your friend has. How do I transition my marksman into something powerful while retaining and having a good time as I build my items? So the focus of this video, of course, is to show you that you can achieve this stage, eventually if you grind for the endgame, but also provide you guys with a lot of insight and understanding in terms of building for your legendaries and also crafting for those and where you can be finding those items. So yes, if you look behind me, I actually spent quite a bit of time writing those notes over here. I have listed the rankings, the places to farm those items, and also how to use your runes of Ascendance, and also additional tips on where you can be farming and our transitional builds between different stage of the game. And over here I even color coded for you guys for special information. So you can be crafting your marksman gears for multiple class, and this is additional variety I want to offer to you guys. So this video will look into the best crafting of the gears for any stage of the game. If you have 4 LP, that's great. Well, you take everything. If you only have 1 or 2 LP on your items, well, we have a way to teach you what is going to be the target and how would you be finding each AFFIX and how they interact and how they help you with your build. For example, with a helmet, it is recommended to go with tier 7 health percentage, and then there's an offensive version and a defensive version, and finally there is the third or final ranking of something great. Having vitality is also great on the helmet. So in this video, really excited to share this with you guys. Hopefully this will help you transitional into the end stage of the game and know exactly what to craft and how to fit your build the best. So let's go through this briefly for each of the items. I have added additional features in terms of the color coding. So the orange color means this item can potentially be used for other class and build. For example, the helmet can also be used for a Falconer. And also for the purple items, this is some of the items that is very popular for many builds. For the Necromancer, for the Marksman, for the Falconer, a lot of class could use those items. So the purple items are very common, very rare endgame universal items. Finally, the teal color items are the items likely just used by our class, because only our class will be using our items and also weapons, and also those core items will be class specific and also build specific. Now, of course, guys, there's a lot of notes to go through. I'll try to be brave and summarize everything, and the notes will be available in the links below if you want to read up. First of all, if we come over to the helmet, you can see there's a lot of stats for my friend's helmet. And right away, most of us know to find and also try to craft the tier 7 AFFIX. So if you only have 1 legendary potential, you always try to get lucky and craft the tier 7 AFFIX onto your gears. Followed by that, if you have 2 legendary potential, it is your choice to go offense or defense. Having the dagger crit chance will give you more offense, especially if you're having the crit multipliers as a tier 7 on your weapon. This will be a massive boost of damage, because crit multipliers need more critical chance. At the same time, guys, if you find yourself to be dying and you want to stack cold resistance, it is very nice to be defensive. And I do want to mention that throughout the video, guys, you want to be checking your resistance. If your resistance is like me, who didn't reach 300, it is actually not preferable to go with the Trinity set of the triple warding. So what I mean by that is the chest, the boots, and also the gloves is the warding Trinity set. So here I have 1300 HP. Having those set will give me a little more HP. But as you're going to see in our guide, it is recommended to stack cold resistance over 300 to best use of those 3 items. And for the viewers who are not familiar with the build, you are stacking uncapped cold resistance, and this will give you additional ward retention. So all the idols over here and all the blessings are trying to stack more cold resistance. And this is why whenever you see the defensive start, usually it's from cold resistance, which gives us tons of more defensiveness by having more warding. Now finally, you can often see some of the crucial stats like the tier 7 stats over here on the gloves, which says missing health gained as warding. Each of those gears will have a stat that says this, and this is what makes those particular items the warding set. So as you're going to see, we'll be stacking more health, and vitality is a form of health together with resistance. It gives us some poison and also narcotic resistance. So those are going to be the 4 ideal, craftings for your helmet. Now the next question is, a lot of us might not be able to get a 4 legendary potential helmet. And even if we get a 2 legendary potential helmet, we might want to craft this helmet for multiple uses. So for items that can be used for multiple classes, I have a small variation for you guys over here. So here what I do is, let's say if I'm crafting this helmet for another class other than Marksman, the first thing we have to make sure is we're not crafting with exalted items with class-specific skills. For example, skills like +3 rank to Fissure or skills like +4 rank to Worth. You want to avoid those skills because what my friend said, it can possibly lock those items for that particular class. Now I can't confirm this 100%, but what I hear is if you have a class-specific AFFIX, this could class lock your item. So for example here, even if it's not a skill rank, a dagger here, increased dagger damage could lock this one onto the rogue class, but I can't 100% confirm this, so please let me know in the comments guys if that's the case. If you're playing a class that is not going to be using daggers and you won't be using dagger critical chance, and if you had those AFFIX on those items, it's kind of waste for other class to be using those. And in comparison, if I just had vitality and also increased health, this can be great for any build and also any class. Now for the case that you guys want to be crafting those legendaries for multiple class, I do have some additional notes over here. Let's say if you want to make a universal helmet for multiple rogue class like Falconer and also Marksman. So for the 2 legendary potential, I could go with something that is more universal, that is less restricted. Because for the other builds and also classes I'm not using daggers, having the dagger won't be that helpful. And for the build I'm not stacking cold resistance, that won't be too helpful. So you can see the additional notes over here for each of the section, which they present an opportunity to do a multi-class or multi-selection, multi-build, so you can have a variation over here. So don't get too confused guys, those are just additional notes that for the case that you're not just building for one marksman. Now as we keep going through the rankings of each of the items, I think you guys start to get the gist of it. So let me go through another few more examples. For the chest, we'll be going with tier 7 armor plus reduction to critical damage. Because we didn't stack critical avoidance over here on the blessings, so having some additional form of getting more armor and also critical damage reduction can be very powerful for a build for over 1000 plus corruption. And you can see the rest of the choices is up to the players for the second best AFFIX, whether you want more offensive or more defensive over here. And you can see the 4th best option, and also what can you craft if you want to be crafting this item for multiple class and also for different build. Now if you have seen our previous video, we have updated the notes for the best in slot weapon, which is going to be the tier 7 critical strike multiplier. Given the fact you have crafted for the critical chance while equipping daggers, and this will be the best way to deal the highest damage. After that, it is your choice to go with tier 5 lightning melee damage or tier 5 lightning percentage damage. If you're not getting a lot of lightning percentage damage on your build, then it's actually better to go with percentage. But if you already have a lot of percentage, it's actually better to go with flat lightning damage. And this will depend on each of your build and also your items. Finally, you can see there's some armor shredding as a 3rd legendary crafting. This is not a must-have, and my friend has mentioned that we actually have a lot of shock potential. And in terms of armor shredding, just having one source of that on your weapon, on your amulet, or on your gloves is already great enough. So it doesn't have to be on a weapon. So as long as you guys have a great 2 LP weapon, this can be great for over 1500 corruption. Now as for the amulet, it is pretty straightforward. Because it's very rare for a class to get lightning penetration, we can't actually craft that one on the weapon onto the AFFIXs over there, so we'll be preferring to get lightning penetration over the critical multipliers. We can also get more critical multipliers tier 7 by coming over to the relic over here, you can see over here. So this is why we're going for lightning penetration for the build. And you can see the rest are pretty straightforward. As for the belt and also the gloves, what you're going to see is we'll be crafting for the experimental mana gain when you use potion. and this is extremely offensive and allows you to kill boss extremely fast. But in terms of defensiveness, you can still go with health percentage on the belt. Now as for the rings over there, it is preferable that we get tier 7 lightning damage, but if you guys get something like tier 7 throwing attack speed or tier 7 mana, it could also work. It will really depend on how your build is balancing your throwing attack speed and also your mana regeneration. Usually it is more preferable to have more throwing attack speed if you combine it with this particular AFFIX on the belt. So let me show you guys over here. So the AFFIX on the belt is going to be a tier 5 mana gain when using potions. And together with higher throwing attack speed on the rings, this will give you the highest burst potential against single target and against most boss. So you can see additional notes over here. If we have too much mana and not enough throwing attack speed, what's going to happen is the mana regeneration will become a waste. So it's more preferable to go with throwing attack speed if you're balancing those two between the mana regen or the throwing attack speed. Now there's one thing I forgot to mention. If you only have one legendary potential on the second ring, the Ocean ring over here, it is quite rare to get it to high legendary potential. And for this case, it's actually better to use the Exalted ring with a better tier 7, tier 5 AFFIX. Now this was reminded by our friend Gav over here. So if you are on Majestic Discord, you can be asking me questions or ask community questions. As I was answering his questions, I realized I should remind you guys on a guide as well. So while editing the video, I saw the question and I decided to add this part to our video as well. Now, if you haven't joined our last Epoch Discord, I have the links available for you below to join us, ask questions, or share with us your great build and your tricks and also tips. Now, because it can be quite rare to get some of those relics, sometimes you can just aim for tier 6 or tier 7 good roll on those items. In terms of the gloves, we really want the missing health gained as warding, because this will make us even more tankier. And this particular experimental AFFIX can be found by finding an Exalted experimental item. So it's quite important, guys, for you to try to get at least a tier 6 or tier 7 missing HP as warding per second. And this will make the build comes alive to make you even tankier. Now, similar to the previous sections, the second two best selections are going to be throwing attack speed or hybrid health. Again, it is balancing between offense and also defense. So see which you want on the build and then you can pick what you need. Now, as for the boots, it is preferable to go with movement speed because this is the only one that appears on the boots, but everything else is pretty straightforward. It is optional to go with additional haste gain, or you can just stack in more cold resistance if you can on the boots. But it never goes wrong if you guys are going in with the hybrid health. And finally for the relic, it is pretty straightforward. We go with the crit multipliers, and anything we can get our hands on with lightning damage or cold resistance is really good. On the off chance you get some other resistance, it is actually not bad because our build really needs 75 hour resistance. Because we're actually using all the legendaries, and it's very hard to be crafting more resistance on the legendaries. And this is why we're also getting resistance over here onto the blessing. Now the first part definitely took me a little longer than I thought. So coming over to the second part, if you guys are farming for those items, we have mentioned about this previously in the item priorities. You want your 2 daggers as soon as you can. And here you can see you can be farming those at the Ring of Dragon. Now I'm going to skip a little bit forward over here into the use of the Runes of Ascendance. Because you can see I have been saving some Runes of Ascendance for the case I need to make a build. I have about 30 of those. The Runes of Ascendance is used to get your unique items. It is not really here to get your legendary potentials. Even for a common dagger like the ones we're using, it is quite hard to get legendary potential. So what I recommend for the Runes of Ascendance is to make sure you get 2 daggers with -8 total mana, and this doesn't have to be legendary potential. And then we're going to use the Runes of Ascendance to find items that is not a boss specific job. And here I have been sorting those items by rarity and color coding for you guys. So if you use the Runes of Ascendance on the weapons, there's 15% chance of you to get the right dagger. If you use the rune on the amulet, 6% chance of getting the amulet, and similarly for the rest of the gears. So this way, if you guys are trying to get your build started, or if you do have the spare Rune of Ascendance, you can try your luck into getting those unique items. And eventually, you could try your luck on legendary potential on those items, but remember guys, even if it's 15% of getting the dagger, it's probably 20% chance of getting 1 LP on the daggers. So it's much harder to use Runes of Ascendance for the legendary potential. So coming back to the item farming priorities. you can see that I have tried to color code items from the boss specific items. And some of those will be coming from the dungeons, some other ones will be coming from the shade boss, and also coming from the storyline boss. It can be a little overwhelming here, so I made a summary of what you can start farming as a starting for those items. If you're looking for 1 to 2 LP weapons, or if you're looking for other items, which can be a little easier to find with the boots and together with the gloves and also the chest. Now, because we have talked about this part previously in our video, I'll refer back to that video and have a timestamp for that for this particular part. What I do want to stress out is my additional tips for farming. So as I'm farming for my Marksman, I'm actually farming only 2 timelines. The Ring of Dragon for better daggers for at least a 2 LP dagger, because you can see I have a bunch of daggers. And only 2 that crafted kinda successfully. So I'm looking for more and also better daggers. So I'm farming the Ring of Dragon for better daggers. And this also drops my Warlock relic, so which is actually a pretty good bonus. And then I'll be focused on farming the Blood, Frost and also Death storyline. Because this storyline is actually one of the best storyline to drop the chest, the boots and also the gloves. Yes, it drops the entire Trinity set in this storyline. And this is why you can see in item priorities, as you go farm for those items, it is actually really profitable to be farming this one. And for a build, you really want to focus on this timeline. And the reason is, you can be killing shade while you're doing the timelines, and you can have chance to find other items while you find this timeline. And for the items you don't find, you can then consider using Runes of Ascendance, and then you can focus on your timelines. Now you can see at the end of the guide, I have been leaving some links for you guys if you're at different stage of the game. I'll be planning to make another transitional build after level 80, after level 90. So I'm level 90, I'll be planning to transition my build into crafting more legendaries. And once I transition those builds correctly, I'll be updating another Marksman build for you guys, maybe between level 90 to level 100, and maybe from corruption 300 to 500. And you can see there's additional notes over here, and also all the build we have updated over here at the end of the page for you guys to have a look. Now, similar to all of the Marksman videos, here is a little demonstration of the build. Yes, I always include the replay now, because I remember I had a comment saying, "Hey man, what do you mean this is a really good build? I don't see any replays." So I'll always attach a small replay. You might see the similar replays. I'm waiting for my friend to update his replay, which he is over 1,300, close to 1,400 corruption. And once he updates his replays, I'll show you guys some different ones, but it's very similar. Because he's so powerful, he can pretty much go through anything 1,300 plus. And of course, his items, Legendary 3, Legendary 4 potential. And hopefully this build and this video will help you craft those items and get stronger into the game.